Ryan Fowler with Inner Masculine Live. We're back to 2 shows a week. I was in Mexico City moving, a lot of other stuff going on, but we're back now. Teresa cannot make it today, but we do have a good one today. This is kind of today's show where we're going to maybe open people's eyes a little. And today's show is not about being powerless or a victim at all, because I do think we can overcome. I mean, if you're in a wheelchair with cancer, that's one thing, but 98% of our adversity we can overcome in life and actually thrive, but people have struggles that we don't know about. So I'm going to play a short clip, kind of an animated story told by Wayne Dyer. Wayne is, he passed away a few years ago, and he's just, you should look him up on Wikipedia. He's just an absolute luminary. He had a very, very abusive childhood. He had some failed marriages and other things, but he really turned his life around, became a huge inspiration for others. So he's going to tell this story today that's just going to remind us that we really have no idea what's going on in other people's lives, how other people are lost, what they're dealing with, how they struggle. It's really interesting because those who struggle the most tend to actually get treated really crappy by other people. So we're going to look into that phenomenon. And again, it's not about, hey, it's okay to be a victim. It's okay not to succeed. But sometimes overcoming takes years. And in the meantime, we don't want to be someone putting a boot on someone's face. Why is this guy such a loser or whatever, or this girl, why is she so toxic or whatever. I'm not saying we should be around toxic people or anything like that, but if we don't need to pass judgment on people who struggle, we probably shouldn't because we really don't know what's going on in other people's lives. I'm going to show this clip today to show you what I mean. But first, Inner Masculine has a new community. It's called MindChrysalis. And I want to show you this because there is a lot of really good, useful, free stuff on here. So check this out. Now you see in my screen, there's a link there, the school.com MindChrysalis-7138. That will take you here. Now, we talk about, the number one method we use is hypnosis / self-hypnosis, either live, group training, whatever. We use that other techniques too. I do something called life gamification, dopamine optimization, mental models, self-talk. We do all of that. But self-hypnosis and hypnosis is by far the most powerful thing that we do. It changed my life. Many of the people, my co-hosts, it's changed their lives. Doing hypnosis, and that's why they're on my show. Tomorrow we're going to have Jordan on with me. Tim is on a cruise. Jordan's changed his life through his hypnosis. Well, here's the thing, is you now get a course for free here. Subconscious Optimization 101. It's an entire course. Now, we have more resources in this than this, but this stuff is free here. And you can actually, some people are going to change their lives with this free stuff. You're seeing, multiple worksheets to download. There's a self-hypnosis audio here. There's video training. There's an ebook on how the subconscious mind works and why it keeps you stuck. There is the table of contents there. But there is a community where you can interact with others and find out how to up-level your core. Ultimately, this is about claiming your power and kicking lots of ass. Just getting rid of procrastination, anxiety, self-sabotage, insecurities, self-doubt, feeling not good enough, all of that. And this is, even though this is maybe 10% of my, expanded program that I sell, I'm not holding back. I'm giving you guys some really powerful stuff here. And it has a calendar. We do webinars twice a week. So our next webinar is coming up, and it is on toxic shame right there. So join the community. You'll get access to the webinars twice a month. You get access to the course material. You can connect with other people. You can help each other up level. If you have a question, I'm trying to do the self-hypnosis and I got stuck here, guess what? Other people in the community help you out, all free. And the link is just on the lower left of my screen. So let's go ahead and dive in. We have this Wayne Dyer clip. Now, Wayne Dyer, this is an interesting clip. He's talking about one thing, but kind of illustrating another thing in this clip. I'm going to comment on what he's actually talking about, because what he's talking about is letting go of resentment so you can claim your power. But he has a story of this kid, and it illustrates some very important points that we all should just be mindful of. So let me go ahead and play this, and then we will comment on it. And so here we go. Okay, we'll just we'll just watch this at normal speed. And here we go, guys.
Story. It was sent to me by someone who sends me beautiful things in the mail. And I call it the Teddy story. And I'd like to read this to you, if I can do it without tearing up. And this story illustrates this as well as anything I've ever seen. There's a story many years ago of an elementary school teacher. Her name was Mrs. Thompson. As she stood in front of her 5th grade class on the very first day of school, she told the children a lie. Like most teachers, she looked at her students and said that she loved them all the same. But that was impossible, because there in the front row, slumped in his seat, was a little boy named Teddy Stoddard. Mrs. Thompson had watched Teddy the year before and noticed that he didn't play well with the other children, that his clothes were messy, and that he constantly needed a bath. Teddy could be unpleasant. It got to the point where Mrs. Thompson would actually take delight in marking his papers with a broad red pen and making bold X's and then putting a big F at the top of his paper. At the school where Mrs. Thompson taught, she was required to review each child.
This actually happens in real life all the time. We see people who don't feel good about themselves and we treat them like crap. My own story, when I was in college and I was really struggling with some severe depression because of some really bad childhood abuse. I wasn't always depressed, but when I was depressed, that is when people treated me the poorest. And I was at this Christian university, this religion that really prided itself on, strengthening the weak and lifting up the poor and everything. And, it's a real devout Christian university that I was at, a prestigious one. And when I was depressed, that's when people treat me the worst. That's kind of how the universe operates, unfortunately. So you may say, how would this lady see this poor kid and not have compassion on him? Actually, this is more typical. It really is a true illustration. She took delight in giving him F's. Let's pick on the loser, right? And you see that, there's a lot of red pill knowledge I embrace, but then you see a lot of these red pill gurus just crapping all over people who are legitimately struggling, and it doesn't help those people. Well, there's a small percentage it helps out, because a small percentage will say, oh, I'm going to prove you wrong. It can be seen as helping them, but a lot of times this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is what you don't want to do, and you're going to see why. You're going to see the rest of the story, because what this teacher sees is Teddy on the outside. Oh, Teddy's a loser. Teddy's messy. Teddy's lazy. Teddy doesn't care. He's just a little loser, a little punk. She doesn't know the rest of the story. We're going to find out the rest of the story now, why Teddy struggles.
Past records, and she put Teddy's off until last. However, when she reviewed his file, she was in for a surprise. Teddy's 1st grade teacher wrote, Teddy is a bright child with a ready laugh. He does his work neatly, and he has good manners. He's a joy to be around. His 2nd grade teacher wrote, Teddy's an excellent student, well liked by his classmates, but he's troubled because his mother has a terminal illness, and life at home must be a struggle. His 3rd grade teacher wrote, his mother's death has been hard on him. He tries to do his best, but his father doesn't show much interest, and his home life will soon affect him if steps aren't taken. Teddy's 4th grade teacher wrote, Teddy's withdrawn and doesn't show up much interest in school. He doesn't have many friends, and sometimes he even sleeps in class. By now, Mrs. Thompson realized the problem, and she was ashamed of herself. She felt even worse when her students brought her Christmas presents wrapped in beautiful ribbons and and bright paper, except for Teddy's. His present was clumsily wrapped in his heavy brown paper that he got from the grocery bag. Mrs. Thompson took pains to open it in the middle of the other presents. Some of the children started to laugh when she found a rhinestone bracelet with some of the stones missing and a bottle that was 1/4 full of perfume. But she stifled her children's laughter when she exclaimed how pretty the bracelet was, putting it on and dabbing some of the perfume on her wrist. Teddy Stoddard stayed after school that day just long enough to say, "Mrs. Thompson, today you smell just like my mom used to." After the children left, she cried for at least an hour. On the very day, she quit teaching reading, writing, and arithmetic, and instead, she began to teach children. Mrs. Thompson paid particular attention to Teddy. As she worked with him and his mind seemed to come alive, the more she encouraged him, the faster he responded. By the end of the year, Teddy had become one of the smartest children in the class, and despite her lie, became one of her teacher's pets. A year later, she found a note under the door from Teddy telling her that she was still the best teacher he ever had in his whole life. 6 years went by before she got another note from Teddy. He then wrote that he had finished high school 3rd in his class, and she was still the best teacher he ever had in his whole life. 4 years after that, she got another letter saying that while things had been tough at times, he stayed in school and stuck with it and would soon graduate from college with the highest of honors. He assured Mrs. Thompson that she was still the very best and favorite teacher he ever had in his whole life. Then 4 more years passed, and yet another letter came. This time he explained that after he got his bachelor's degree, he decided to go a little further. The letter explained that she was still the best and favorite teacher he ever had, but now his name was a little longer. The letter was signed Theodore F. Stoddard, MD. But the story doesn't end there. You see, there was yet another letter that spring. Teddy said he'd met this girl and was going to be married. He explained that his father had died a couple of years ago, and he was wondering if Mrs. Thompson might agree to sit in the place at the wedding that was usually reserved for the mother of the groom. Of course, Mrs. Thompson did, and guess what? She wore that bracelet, the one with several rhinestones missing, and she made sure she was wearing the perfume that Teddy remembered his mother wearing on their last Christmas together. They hugged each other, and Dr. Stoddard whispered in Mrs. Thompson's ear, "Thank you so much for making me feel important and showing me that I could make a difference." Mrs. Thompson came with tears in her eyes and whispered back, "Teddy, you have it all wrong. You were the one who taught me that I could make a difference. I didn't know how to teach until I met you." Isn't that a beautiful story? That symbolizes there are no justified resentments. Work at reaching that $32,000 level, the place where the only thing you have to send is love.
Okay, so I'll talk about what he's trying to convey here, which is one way, and we talked about this last week, forgiveness is for the forgiver. You see that guy there climbing the mountain with blame. So if Teddy was bitter about his upbringing, about the things that happened to him, his mom died, it's so unfair, all the other kids are laughing at me, it's so unfair, that blame could have held him down and kept him from moving forward. So, that's last week's message, forgiveness for the forgiver. It just frees us up so we can just let go of the past, kick ass, move forward. But what if Teddy did not have a teacher like this? Because there's so many people grow up and they don't have anyone on their side, period. No teacher that believed in them. More often than not, people are just gonna pick on that kid. That kid gets bullied, right? The bullies go after the weak children or the ones that no one's gonna stand up for, the ones that aren't strong enough to fight back or won't fight back effectively because the bully's bigger. That's what happens to these kids. Now, this show is not at all about, hey, poor me, because I've seen lots of people turn their lives around, but you can struggle for many years before that happens. You know, I went to 15 years of normal therapy, like on and off, but it was about 100 sessions. And yeah, it fixed about 60% of my depression, but there's still that huge chunk. It didn't fix much of my anger. It didn't fix any of my anxiety and my self-belief. It didn't help me believe in myself. It didn't help me believe my ability to succeed or anything like that. Well, I found a method that really helped me. Then it doubled my income, doubled it again, you know, much more success in dating, just let go of all my anger, rage, let go of, you know, everything, just became a much happier, more confident, successful person. But that happened at age 38. You know, up to that point, I know what it's like to be a person who struggles, and instead of others helping me, because my religion was all about, oh, you need to help the poor and afflicted and everything. But unfortunately, more often than not, that's not how it goes down. And in fact, most of the time, that is not how it goes down. And ultimately, we all have the power to change our own lives, but it can take a while. It can be very, very, very hard, because when we grow up, especially if you're in not the best environment growing up, no one shows you what to do. In fact, society lies to us all the time. It tells us lies that benefit society, that benefits, the corporations who are advertising to us. Other people are telling us things that benefit them, not us. I'm watching on YouTube, and this guy who gives a lot of good advice. I won't say his name, but gives a lot of good advice. But then I see him on a show, and these young men are asking him questions, and one guy's like, should I, learn how to do real estate, or should I do this other program? And by the way, this other program, very inferior. I just know the very inferior program. Real estate is one of the best ways to make money. Now, I'm not in real estate. Making money in real estate can take several years to build up your portfolio, etc. But this gentleman who had a financial interest in this company that educates people said, no, do this company, don't do real estate at all. And I'm like, you self-serving son of a bitch, So there's a lot of messages out there that aren't serving people. It can take people a long time to find the truth. Hopefully they search for it and find it. That's the whole reason I have a show, because, excuse me, the whole point of this show, get on MindChrysalis.com. Get on, my school website. Excuse me, that'll give you the power. That'll show you what to do. I used to struggle, mightily. I used to have depression, all this stuff. But while people are struggling, if you have that tendency to say, look at this fat loser, look at this overweight or skinny, or, you see an oppressed person with low self-esteem, and you're like, what a retard, what a lazy bum, whatever. I would say, please refrain from that. You don't want to make their life even harder, because you have no idea. That kid, his mom died, and overcome with grief. That's why he was, sleeping in class. Or maybe someone decides just to be a dick to everyone because he was abused and he has all this anger in him. So we just don't know. I am not. Hey, welcome to the show, guys. Spark 55, welcome. And also welcome, Brent. So Brent's actually a good example because Brent went from couldn't hold down a job to making six figures. By the way, that's my 911 Turbo in his background. But anyways, Brent's a great friend. And honestly, Brent is kicking ass. You have the power, right? I was able to, help him out, but then he did all the hard work. Brent, there's a testimonial on my website where I interview Brent. Check that out, because that's a guy who struggled, did claim his power, but he had some challenges, growing up. He did change. Now everyone's like, oh, what an awesome guy, what a successful guy. He's a homeowner now, earning six figures. It wasn't always that way. We don't know at what time someone's going to blossom and overcome. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But again, for me, it didn't happen until 38. So don't judge. Don't be someone that heaps coals on the top of the head of someone who struggles, because you don't know their struggles. And honestly, I think it's something we're all guilty of, myself included. But you know, it's something we should work on. So that's the message for today. Don't be that kid bullying and beating up Teddy. That's not going to help Teddy at all. I don't care what anyone says. You know, Fresh and Fit, they actually say, oh, it's going to be bully. It's like bullshit, man. Bullshit, you know, whatever. I think that's just Myron trying to justify that he was a bully. That's my guess, because I know him a little bit. And anyways, that's our show for today. But hey, who knows what's happened in his life, right? So just our message for today. Tomorrow going to be a much more instructive show, kind of back to, hey, let's give you techniques to kick ass, take names. Again, MindChrysalis.com is going to help you do that. This stuff is very powerful. But that's all I had for today. And I hope you take it to heart. That's our show. And you guys, for you guys who are struggling, you can't overcome. You don't need to stay in your adversity forever. Keep going. Just keep going. Keep looking for a solution. Try this one out, because you truly do have more power than you know. That's our show. Thank you.